minutes. Nancy couldn't be with us today, so Heather will be here for us, and Robin's obviously on the call as well. So Heather, are we good to start?
We are, thank you.
Okay, great. And so welcome everybody. Thanks Sergeant Hampson for joining us today. I know there was some vacation schedule juggling, so I appreciate you being able to be with us today. Let's get started. I believe, Heather, you've got attendance taken. If not, let me know.
Nope, we're good.
Okay, great. So let's go for the approval of the agenda. I'll seek a motion. Mayor Bailey and seconder Councillor Pierce. All those in favor?
Madam Mayor, before we do that, do we need to put in whether we're going into camera or not for the reasons therefore?
There's no in-camera session scheduled, so if we do want one, we'll need to declare that now.
Member Brown, did you want to declare that then?
If we could declare that, go into the camera for two personal matters.
Under item 12?
Yes.
So circling back to Mayor Bailey and Councillor Pierce, you're still okay with approval of the agenda?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. So all those in favor then of that? Carried. Any declaration of pecuniary interests? Seeing none. We have no delegations or presentations today. So moving into the minutes from the previous meeting, June 15th, they were in your package. I'm sure everybody's reviewed them. We'll need a motion to accept those minutes. Thank you, Mayor Bailey. Seconded by Member Brown. All those in favor of that motion? And that's carried as well. Okay, so business arising from the minutes, we have one item just to provide an update on, and I can do that part. Last meeting, we approved the purchase of 12 vests for the St. George Brant North Community Policing Group. I don't believe that they've been ordered as of yet, but working back and forth, apparently the county staff will order them for the group, but there are some requirements from a safety point of view that they have a certain reflective value and that they also wear leg bands. So the volunteers will need to wear leg bands and the vest. So they're getting pricing on the sets. And Inspector Nash advised that the printing on the vests be County of Brant Community Watch versus community policing. There was some concern about, vests looking similar to what our members would be wearing that would have policing on it. So it'll say County of Brant Community Watch instead of community policing, if that makes sense to everybody. I don't know, Robin's joined us. Is there something else that you wanted to add to that, Robin?
Through you, Madam Chair, I did speak with Laura Lynn this morning, and she advised that they will be ordered by Friday.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Councillor Pierce?
Yeah, can you just give me a little more detail on this leg band? Like what's that all about?
So I just assumed we could order just, the regular safety vests that many suppliers have.
Mm-hmm.
But Laura Lynn with the county advised that the regulations, if it's under the auspices of anything to do with the county, they have to follow what our staff would be following, and that's having some kind of reflective wear on the legs, which county staff wear that on their work pants or what have you. So they would have to have these leg bands that would just slip over the ankle and apparently be on the bottom of the pants type thing. So there's reflective stuff at the bottom of their legs and then on the vest. Also, like I just assumed we could just get a normal, lightweight vest, but with the reflective values, Laura Lynn, I've learned far more about it than I need to know, but Laura Lynn has mentioned that there's certain legislation requirements for reflective values for folks. So just the regular parking vest that you might see volunteers wear isn't suitable necessarily for if the county's going to order them.
Okay. And two quick follow-ups if I could. Does that adjust the price? And if so, how much? And if they're ordered by Friday, when's the expected delivery date?
So I don't know the second question. I don't know because I didn't have that update. So maybe Robin can let us know. But I've also asked Laura Lynn to look into the screen printing piece of it as well. So I'm sure that'll delay like that. My understanding of that's why I went back and forth with the vest. The price is a significant jump from what Mrs. Steedman put in her letter as an estimate to what's required. It's closer to $50 a set for a vest and the leg bands versus $15 or $20. I've asked Laura Lynn, like, do we really need the full, like it's a pretty heavy duty vest. And I hadn't had any feedback at that point. She was going to look into whether we could get something a little bit more economical and lightweight.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor Bailey?
Yeah, I would think we still need to order what we should order. It's a purchase over a long period of time. And I would also suggest maybe if we could to order a couple of extras. So if we're doing parking lot duty at Apple Fest or Paris Fair or something, or they need 2 other bodies, that we would have a couple of extras hanging around that staff or council or me or someone could wear if we ever had to go out and help.
I can coordinate that with Robin after the meeting.
That'd be great.
Yeah, so I did check on the motion just to follow up on that because I wasn't clear on the budget either, Councillor Pierce. The motion that we have from last meeting is it just says 12 vests. It doesn't have a dollar value to it. So Nancy did advise that we do have the funding in our budget currently. And because the motion was specific to the number 12 versus a dollar value, that we have some room for whatever the dollar value comes back as.
Yep. No, I'm just curious as to what the price change was. Thank you.
Yeah. It's yeah. And ordering, I guess, through the county, they have to follow the various rules and whatnot. If they had to order them on their own, it might have been different, but it's better to be safe than not. So that's the update on that, unless there's anything else. I think it makes sense to also have it as community watch versus community policing on the back of the vest. That was a good catch by Inspector Nash. So we'll move into the statistics reports, and we'll call on Staff Sergeant Hampson to go through the report for us. Inspector Nash is away today.
Good morning, everyone. Inspector Nash sends his regrets, so I'll be filling in for him today. I'd like to start the reporting with a few updates on our human resources within the detachment. We have Constable Chris Parker, who has returned to Brant County. He was a previous member here. He went to Cambridge Detachment for a short period and has returned. He was successful in the traffic management position that we have in the detachment, and he'll begin that role in mid-September. He remains on C platoon until that time. Constable Daryl Giles was also successful in the traffic unit position, and he started end of June, start of July into that rotation. We have Jerusha Woodley, a longtime member of Brant, and our previous mobilization officer was successful in the crime competition. She's been promoted to the rank of detective, and she'll be working out of the Brant County Crime Unit. She started last week, I believe. We've gained 3 experienced police officers. Constable Coletta, Constable Vincent, and Constable Fitzpatrick have joined us from municipal policing services. They're bringing with them a wealth of experience and training from their previous employments that will really benefit our detachment and its members. I believe one of them is a commercial vehicle inspector, so that will be a great benefit to us on our roadways. Constable Hector Jibison has accepted a transfer to Niagara Detachment. He'll be leaving us in early August. And we're also pleased to update that due to the current trends and calls for service that we've seen over the last couple of years, our constables have been increased by 1. So we have a net new vacancy. So we'll have 1 additional constable assigned to Brant that we hope to have filled as soon as possible. That's it for human resources. Complaints, we have no new complaints on file. The community safety and well-being team, as you can see by the attached chart, we do see an increase in calls related to mental health for the past 4 years. In June, our MCART workers attended 3 calls for service, with the remaining calls falling outside of their assigned work hours, which resulted in 12 referrals for follow-up to the COAST program. We've, in the month of June, we received a new full-time MCART worker, as well as a new part-time COAST worker, which have joined our teams. The previous ones have moved on to other forms of employment. Constable Murphy's been working with the county and Nova Vita to explore grant opportunities in relation to intimate partner violence, also known as IPV, if you're seeing that acronym come up in the reports later on. Our school and youth officer, Constable Gagnon, has completed the OPP Kids program to the grade 6 students throughout the county, as well as completed safety videos and messaging for some of the younger students. She's been involved in resuming the CAA patroller programming in the fall and has attended the Paris Policing Committee meeting in June. She's also been assigned to foot patrols in high visibility areas and has been spotted throughout the county at various day camps and different areas where youth are congregating to interact with them in a positive manner. Our media officer, Conrad Vitalis, has had a number of several high-profile releases on Facebook, with one post related to a noisy vehicle, which I'm sure you've all seen, the lack of muffler, reached over 334,000 people and received over 3,300 comments. This was the most prolific post of all the West Region Facebook postings, so the word is getting out there, spreading across the province and across the internet of the enforcement action that we're taking in regards to some of these noisy vehicles. Our Project Safe Trade was another high flyer, receiving over 63,000 views on Facebook. And it's quite a successful program. It's used on a daily basis here at the detachment. So we're pleased to see that that is out there. Moving over to the focus patrols, we can continue our efforts on Highway 403 and 24 with the attached results, as well as our off-road enforcement initiatives. In July, we started a number of new directed patrols with direct officer assignments to areas of citizen complaints, and we'll be able to report back on those results for the next meeting, specifically the locations we've hit and what the results at each one of them were. COVID-19, no new updates. Our doors remain open. We're doing criminal record checks for anyone who asks for all purposes. And all we ask is that anyone who attends the detachment wears the proper face coverings. For our noteworthy items, you can see there's a number of them that I have attached to the report here. One of the most prominent ones is the updates on Bill 282, which is the increased time for suspensions and vehicle impoundments as a result of stunt driving. There's also a number of highlighted calls for services there, including several impaired drivers, stunt drivers, and arrests made in relation to property crimes, as well as charges laid as a result of a attempted murder. During the trends and actions, we can point out that almost 30% increase in speeding charges this year, year to date, over 2020, and an increase in impaired operation charges is up 5.5%. Our mental health calls are down almost 43% compared to June of 2020, but continue to be up over 26% year to date. Domestic calls are down 16.7% compared to June of last year. For year to date, they're up 11.6%. And again, as previously reported, we're continuing to see the increase in the verbal ones, not criminal domestics. For the patrol hours, there's not really anything of note in that area. Our numbers are beginning to level out and bounce back to what they should be at, following our previous spike during the onset of COVID and our change in staffing levels for that. That's all I have to report, and I'm welcome to any questions. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Staff Sergeant Hampson. Mayor Bailey? Oh, you're on mute, Mayor Bailey.
Yep. Yeah, I just have a comment. I have seen police cars and policemen everywhere. I am so pleased that I'm seeing cars pulled over. I'm so pleased that I see police walking the streets of Paris. I've seen police in St. George, and not just handing out tickets. I've seen them just talking and laughing and doing what police used to do when I was a kid. And I am very pleased to see that someone has been listening to what we're asking for in the county, and touche and carry on.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I will make sure that that is passed on to our frontline members.
Thank you.
Member Brown?
Through you to Staff Sergeant Hampson, I just want to concur with the comments of the mayor. I've had several comments from people that I've had contact with concerning the amount of AT fee enforcement, and that it's a very good thing. And I know you've been responsive to our requests on that in the past. So it is being noticed and it is appreciated, and hopefully it will continue. I have one question. I don't know if you have the information or are able to share it. There was an ATV accident on June 4th in Burford. And I don't want specifics, but is there an approximate age group? Like, is it an older, a younger, a kid? And were they local or were they from out of town?
It is an active investigation that's currently ongoing, but I can tell you it involved all adults, and they were residents of Brant County.
Thank you. I've got a couple more follow-ups if I can.
Go ahead.
Madam Chair, you also itemized a missing elderly man, and that the OPP were able to utilize their ERT, air services, and canine units. Are you able to tell us how long was he lost for?
Just recollection. I believe he was last seen mid-afternoon, where he'd gone out to clear a walking trail out in his in a large, heavily wooded area. I'm not sure at what point we were contacted. I was contacted about 10 or 11 o'clock, I believe, to go out there and set up the command post, and all the resources were on the ground at that point. I believe he was located probably around 2 or 3 a.m. because I think I was back home and in bed around 4 or 5 in the morning. So it was a heavily wooded area, and there was a lot of resources deployed to it. And it was a great job. EMS was there on standby, and they were able to get him rehydrated and safely back under medical care. So it was a very successful search, and we're happy to report that.
I understand that it was a huge team effort, but what portion of the search was responsible? Did Air Services factor into it, or was it the K9, or who came across him? It's hard to say. It was sort of a collective effort as to how he was discovered at the end. It was during a pause in the air activity. The helicopter had left, and they were using the RPAS drones. Following that, we were able to actually hear distress calls out in the woods, and the ground crews were able to move in and locate him at that point. That's awesome. Thank you. And I think my last one is mental health. You're indicating that there's been an increase year to date of 52%. I don't expect that you're going to have this information, but I'd be interested in how many calls would result in an officer going to the hospital with a subject. And on top of that, how are the wait times at the hospitals now comparative to, say, a year ago? Are they getting better? Are they stable? Or are they worse? Where you have a resource tied up at the hospital with a subject involved in a mental health file?
I don't have those numbers available at this time. The wait times, they continue to be consistent with what they've historically been, in that the officers are there for several hours. I do know that. I can get the information as to how often we are attending the hospital with somebody versus how often we're connecting with resources at the scene and leaving. I will be able to have those numbers for you at a later time. I just don't have them at my fingertips right now.
So one last clarification on that. If you could get those numbers for us, and I know about, well, within the last 2 years, that there was some initiatives that the OPP were taking with contacts and that at the hospitals, trying to streamline that process. I would like to further that with follow-up discussion in the future with yourself and others to see, is there something that we can do as a board? Because I was hoping that they would be better by this stage, but if that's not the case, then maybe that has to be looked at again.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Is that everything, Member Brown?
Yes.
Yep. Other comments? Member Verhey?
Through you, Madam Chair, to Member Brown, just to clarify, you jogging my memory here, I think there was actually a draft MOU in the works between the OPP and the hospital. So maybe I'm recalling that incorrectly, but yeah, there was some major effort being put forward. So yeah, I would be interested to learn where that stands today too.
So let's put that as a follow-up item for our next meeting, so that we can follow that through. I think everything is before COVID and after COVID, right? So what we talked about before COVID, and now we're getting back to some of the other business. Councillor Pierce.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Very quickly on that, the discussion in regards to the wait times at the hospital. The mayor and I have paramedic services meeting tomorrow, and it's been pretty much consistent with paramedic services as well, that the wait times, they are coming down slightly because they've got new additional resources within the emergency department. But again, I don't think they're where we want them to be. So I think that's consistent across all services, not just police services, it's paramedics as well. So I think that's a beast of its own, the wait times in the hospital. So I'm not sure that hey, if we can do anything to help it through this board, I'm absolutely all for that. But this is no disrespect to this board, but I don't think we're going to be able to change the situation there. And I'll just kind of leave it at that for further discussion, of course. Couple questions for Inspector Hampson there. Couple things. So you talk about the FTEs and the new the experienced officers. Obviously, the experienced officers don't have to have a training buddy as the new recruits do. Is that a fair statement?
They're assigned a mentor. When they're hired, they go up to our headquarters in Aurelia for a 2-week indoctrination into the OPP course.
Okay.
And then once they arrive at the detachment, the first day they're out on their own.
Okay, so
they have a mentor officer. They help guide them through some of our specific policies and paperwork.
okay.
But they're an extra car on the road right away.
Perfect. That's great news. So when are they that on the road now, or when do you expect that to happen? They are. Perfect. Now you spoke of the Jibison going to Niagara, and another one, Woodley is successful for the crime unit. Are these experienced officers, to just for clarification, to refill those positions, or these are additional resources to fill positions that were already vacant?
They were filling options that were already vacant.
Perfect. Thank you for that clarification. So with this additional FTE, if I'm, through history of the information we've given, with that FTE, once that single position is filled, we should be pretty much to maximum FTEs. Is that a fair statement?
We'll be very close, yes.
Okay.
I think we're currently at 2 vacancies right now.
2. Yeah, that's kind of what I thought from there, 1 or 2. So that's fantastic news. Just a little further on, hang on 1 second here. I just got to get to the appropriate page. One of the things you kind of alluded to there, and I actually I was contacted by a couple people that actually saw the traffic stop on Grand River Street with the guy with the muffler. So that's fantastic news that there's got to be a first for everything, and people have seen that and people are aware of it, and there's a lot of chatter that's being looked into. So kudos to that, and I know there's been a lot of work put into how that's going to all come about. So that's great. If you go into the statistics, just a couple things of note with the bicycle patrol. Is it a little different with bicycle patrol now that you guys are out? I'll call it on the outskirts of town, that you're not right downtown with the bicycle, because I'm noticing, as far as patrols are concerned, the bicycle patrol is way down. Is there something a little different happening with that now that you're not right in the downtown core?
It certainly is an increase that we had being able to ride straight out of the detachment. However, I think when we're looking at the numbers of the bicycle patrol compared to 2020, we're still looking at that increased staffing level that we had at the time, where we almost had so many people working, we didn't have enough vehicles for them. And there was officers that were able to go out on the ATVs and able to go out on the bicycles on a fairly regular basis. So the bicycle patrols are still happening, obviously not as much as we saw in the year-to-date 2020. But I don't think it's a considerable factor that we're not immediately in the downtown core, as we do have vehicles equipped with bicycle hitches and trailer racks, etc., as well, so we can tote them around to wherever we need to go.
Fantastic. And just one final quick note on the, you were talking about the police checks and stuff like that. I'm helping my son coach my grandson in baseball, and I went in for my police check, and it was literally like 4 days later, I got my call that everything was ready and good to go. So things are being processed very quickly on that. So appreciation to all those involved with that. I know it for some time it was a little difficult to do, but I think you guys have right back on track with that. So thank you very much. And as always, thanks for all you guys do.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, just to follow up there on the experienced officers, last week I had the pleasure of meeting two of them. One came from York Region and the other was from Halton Police Services. Both just in the 2 minutes that I was chatting with them, both are very experienced in terms of their backgrounds and their training and the things that they've done. So it's a good asset for us, I think, here in Brant for both of them. I haven't met the third one yet, but wanted to just pass that along, Councillor Pierce, that it was quite impressive to hear their resume and you know what they're doing and how they're doing it, which is great. And then I also wanted to comment, and I've already mentioned this to Inspector Nash, but I'm just really pleased to see the work that we're doing on the media releases and the social media posts and all of the good and bad. There's lots of great posts too, and I don't think the measure of success is necessarily how many likes or interactions necessarily. It's still getting in front of faces. It's still being seen. Whether it's you know, PC Gagnon giving out freezies to the kids at camp, or it's something like the mufflers or the speeding, the stunt driving, just really notice the increase in volume of posts. And I think that's really helpful for our community. To Mayor Bailey's point, we're seeing lots of visibility physically, and then we're showing the work that's being done, you know, through the different media channels and through social media, which I think is exactly what we were hoping for in terms of that communication tool. So I just wanted to say thank you to Conrad and to everybody that's doing that. When Member Brown and I were at the detachment last week, there was some folks coming in from a seizure, and the first thing that they talked about was the media piece as they were passing by, was making sure they had pictures for media. So knowing that is, you know, present and top of mind with all members of the detachment in terms of what can be communicated, what would be, you know, what kind of pictures they need, or that they can forward to PC Vitalis. I just think that's really great. And that's something that personally, I think we need to make sure we keep that as a front and center piece, because I hear a lot of feedback from the community as well, just on how busy you guys seem to be, which I know you've always been busy, but now we're showing the breadth and depth of all the things that you guys are involved in. And I think that's just great. Was there any other, Councillor Pierce, did you have something else?
Just one final quick little shout out to Sergeant Workman there. I've been discussing him with the Brant Safe Streets and stuff like that, and I was discussing the area of town where I live at the bottom of the Mile Hill, how people will, you know, there's a four-way stop there and people fly down the hill and they shoot the corner and stuff like that. Well, over the last, I would say 6 weeks or so, there's been several times where he's been down at this end of town, and you know, he'll sit in his cruiser and watch, or he'll actually get out and stand just right by the trees on the corner. And he's doing both. I believe there's been a couple of violations laid, but he's also doing a lot of education too, which is fantastic. And as he said to me the one day when he's standing by the trees, he said, if somebody is doing the speed limit and paying attention as they should, they will see him. And if they're not, and it's quite interesting, like a few times he would yell, he'd go, hey. And, you know, and the next thing you know, the person goes over. So he goes over and discusses it with him. And just to the mayor's point, it's been said a few times, just the presence of having them there. I've already noticed that, mind you, people are still blowing the stop sign, but I've noticed a difference that people are actually, you know, lo and behold, stopping at the stop sign because the presence has been there. So it's so true. You know, they're around, they're being seen, and people are seeing that they are there. So again, I know it's been said a few times, but kudos to you all.
Thank you. And once again, I'll make sure that all our men and women on the front line are receiving that message from and all the positive comments from you guys today. It's a great deal.
Excellent. Any other questions for Staff Sergeant Hampson on the statistics report? Any other? Okay, hearing none. Thank you very much for that. And thanks for joining us today. I know that you had to change your plans with your vacation, so I truly appreciated that you're able to join us today.
Not a problem.
Okay, so moving into trying to find my agenda again. We have the false alarms summary attached to our report for our information. I don't know if there's any comments there that anybody would like to make. And then the last piece in there, 7.3 for information is a news release from June about funding opportunities for victims of intimate partner violence and human trafficking. I don't think it's on the agenda anywhere else, but I can provide it unless Sergeant or Staff Sergeant Hampson wants to give a quick update. But I believe PC Murphy has submitted an application for funding that would partner with Nova Vita and the county resources, and of course OPP. The deadline date was, the announcement was on June 14th. The deadline date was yesterday. Quite a quick turnaround for funding to be put through. We'll see how that application is reviewed. From what I understand of the project, it would be a great project to partner with, and that would help our county residents, for those that are in need of intimate partner violence. And in the future, if we are successful, obviously we'll have more information about the project itself and the details of it. Staff Sergeant Hampson, was there anything else that you wanted to say about that at this time?
I think you've covered it off. The PC Murphy was able to get the grant submitted on time yesterday. So now we're just in a holding pattern to see if we'll be successful or not. And I think she's got some great partnerships lined up and some good initiative ideas for different things we can do to benefit not only the officers, but primarily the residents of the county that are going to be in need of these services. So, hopefully we'll hear soon and be able to have it implemented in the near future.
And just as a point of clarification, Inspector Nash did approach me last week with the information about the deadline, and I did suggest that it would be better to meet the deadline, given that it was yesterday and our meeting is today. It would be better to at least meet the deadline and get something submitted. And if it wasn't something that lined up with what our priorities and objectives were, then we could always assess that. We may not even, we meaning the royal we, may not even get approved for funding, but I didn't want to see, with the tight timelines, I didn't want to see us miss an opportunity with the deadline. So I'll ask for forgiveness afterwards, but I felt it was important that I give that support to Inspector Nash to go ahead and submit on our behalf. Okay, so given that, then, if there's nothing else on any of these three items, we'll need to have a motion to receive as information all three pieces. Councillor Pierce, thank you. And Member Brown. And all those in favor? Marty? Yep, thank you. That's carried. Okay, staff reporting. I'm not sure if Adam will be joining us, but we have the first item is the Brant Towing Group contract. And just before Adam does join us, I just want to say thanks to both Member Brown and to Adam for the extensive work they've done on this file. Both have put a lot into it, and we've really benefited, Adam, from your expertise and your institutional knowledge that you have on this file for the many years that you've coordinated it. And also thanks to Member Brown as well for liaising with the Brant Towing Group folks as well. So Adam, I don't know if you just want to give us a quick summary or highlights. Everybody's got it in their package.
Certainly, Madam Chair. Good morning, everyone. Through extensive consultations, we've sort of reached a point where I think we're prepared to present this contract to the board for approval and execution. Looking for a 3-year term. We've built some modified accountability into this, where we'll be asking for some different stuff and working with them to keep the organization going, modern and responsive to its members. It's sort of anticipated, I think I noted in the conclusions, anticipated that we'll have to effectively reevaluate the necessity of this contract after the 3-year period, based off how things go with the provincial implementation of towing regulations. They're pretty significant. They're the most significant change we've seen. So it'll be ultimately up to that point. So, a 3-year contract to sort of guide the relationship here, and see where it lands there. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Yep, Councillor Pierce.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Through you, yeah, like fantastic work on this, guys. There's been a lot of hours, a lot of how do I put this? At times, I'm going to put it bluntly, it felt like we were banging our heads against the wall, and you continued on, and we've got something documented now that I think, first of all, I think the 3 years is the best way to go. I'm very glad that it wasn't, and it's only additional 2, but I'm very glad that it wasn't a 5-year term, because I really think that a 2 or 3 year term is the way to go to make sure that things stay in check. Again, in the back of my mind, I'm still a little leery as to how they're going to, keep their end of the bargain up. I'm going full positive here that they will going forward. A change in the guard, maybe that's what was required for this, more transparency. So that part is good. Again, don't get me wrong, fantastic report. I think this is exactly what we need. The only thing that I would have liked to have seen different in there is the fact that it goes through there that they need to show us the yearly report and the elections and all that kind of stuff. But unless I missed it, and forgive me if I did, there's nothing in there that discusses anything of, if they don't, we as a police services board, because our name is still on this, we shall. And it's almost like if you want to look at it as a 3-strike thing, that, that's why I think the 3 years is good. As at the end of the 3 years, if they don't give us the information, and unfortunately there was a lot of circumstances, I'll call it, behind why we didn't get it in the past, but I don't think there's circumstances that should arise that would prevent us from getting that information. They can plan it full way ahead. I'm looking for something in there that, if they don't after the first year, then it's a, hey, you know what? It's in the contract, you should be. If they don't after the second year, again, it's, hey, you know what? You were told this, now this is a second time, and 3 strikes, we back out. Again, I don't know if it needs to be that extreme, but again, there's nothing in there that holds them to task other than the fact of us saying, you shall, to do their side of the bargain. Again, I'm going in fully positive, but that's my only, it's not even a critique. That's my only thing that I could see in that I would like to have had in there. You don't really have to respond to it, but that's just kind of my thoughts on it.
Would you like me to, Madam Chair? I can.
Sure, thank you.
Yeah, I think this is something that we identified sort of pretty early on, that, with no sort of fiduciary duties or responsibilities in this contract, it's hard to put anything beyond, basically what you would do is it's very informal, sort of informal discussions. There's nothing formal in the contract that you can withhold or to do. And you have a termination clause in there, 7 days within breach of contract. And I think that's probably the best answer I can give you, is that if they don't uphold their end of the bargain, 7 days, You terminate the contract and you move on. And I think they probably, very likely over the past couple of years, strikes 1 and 2 have probably gone on. Maybe they gain one back through this process. They've been pretty responsive to this and accepting and agree with a lot of the things, and even asked for a modified clause to reduce their response time. So, I think they're fully prepared. They understand the gravity of the situation and are prepared to go along with this 3-year term and see where things lie after that. So hope that answers your question.
Yeah, it does. Like I say, if I could, Madam Chair, through you, it does. And like I say, I'm going into this positive in the sense that, since such time as there's been a new board and a new direction and stuff like that, I'll put it, they're talking the talk. So let's just see if they walk the walk, right? But, like I say, go ahead.
Sorry. I was just going to suggest perhaps, we can diarize the timelines of reporting and simply send a quick proactive communication to say, hey, don't forget the reporting is due within the next month or whatever, just as a proactive measure to help inspire the submission and do that, if that's something that you think Councillor Pierce would be helpful.
Yeah, and that's very easily done, right? And it's just like you say, a hey, FYI. But no, like I say, at the end of the day, we've got exactly what we need in there, and I love the way how it's condensed, but it's still, the meat is still there, but it's not a 40-page document anymore. Not the, you know what I mean? So again, thanks for all your work, and let's just go forward on a positive note.
I just will note before Member Brown, just will note that beginning of July, Member Brown organized a meeting. I was in attendance with Inspector Nash and Staff Sergeant Hampson and folks from the Brant Towing Group, and to try and just make sure that everybody was on the same page, but really to have a forum of opportunity for everybody to meet each other and connect. And chasers continue to remain their #1 concern within the county. That was really prevalent in the discussions. Talk did circle around to how other jurisdictions are doing things, how that's really impacting their perceptions of the contract. Obviously there was good conversation between OPP and the Brant Towing Group about the circumstances in different situations, but with the lack of municipal licensing, county licensing, OPP is limited to Highway 24 and 403. So if there was some discussion, just so that everybody's aware, there was some discussion about is the county considering licensing in general, so that all roads could then be subject to chaser situations. Of course, that was nothing that Member Brown and I could speak to, but I just wanted to bring that up with you, Mayor Bailey, and Councillor Pierce, that was something that was raised, that they'd like to see the chaser issue addressed on all of our county roads, not just 24 and 403. But it was a good meeting, and thanks, Jim, for facilitating that as well. Member Brown, you had some comments?
Yeah, if I could just add, that was the item I was going to touch on. It was very positive. They were keen to enhance the relationship they had with the OPP, which is where it should be. We shouldn't have to be part of that, and I think that all parties agreed. Very positive meeting, and Inspector Nash impressed all 3 of the executive. I talked with them after the fact. Bill 282 is going to change things immensely once it comes into reading, and it was part of legislation that was passed for July 1st. It was passed the same time as the new stunt driving laws were, but there's no date on the regulations or whatnot for the towing aspect of it. And that may cover it because they've got designated areas. They have a number of new things that are going to be implemented that will see the OPP have enhanced powers that they currently don't have, that I think will bring the towing industry a long way in Brant County. The contract was written in such a way that we / they are to comply with all municipal, provincial, and federal laws and legislation that comes into place. So this can be done without changing what we've done, and it will just continue to move forward. as Chair Haley said, there may be an opportunity once Bill 282 is put into place that we have to address what it says and maybe make recommendations to council for action that would see things improve in that regard. But that's for a later day.
So Adam, the way you've structured the contract is that the current one that we have expires September 30th, 2021. This one would take an effect October 1st, 2021. So very seamless transition. Obviously, we're going to get signatures ahead of time. It's not going to be last minute, but everything's in place in that regard. Was there any other comments, Adam, that you wanted to provide, or is that, are we good that way? Or any questions of Adam, I guess, too? Go ahead, Adam.
I just want to thank you, Madam Chair and Vice Chair Brown, for all your efforts. It's been tremendous to have that's really got us to this point, to have this sort of engagement and the support of two members of the board. I think they really understood the commitment of the board to this process from that, and I can't thank you enough, because it wouldn't have got here without you. So thank you, and again, yeah, I think speaking to Member Brown's point about Bill 282, I think that's the next step. This is very much there's really nothing we can do in advance of that to determine it. If the situation is to remain steady, then this is the logical next step. And then once I mean, it's pretty significant. There's new provincial bureaus being set up for towing, provincial regulation of every towing company and operator. It's very significant. It's going to take some time to get going, but once it gets going, then I think that's a good opportunity to reevaluate the situation for the county as a whole, and see where things lie from there. So anyways, thank you.
Thank you, Adam. So if there's no further discussion or questions, at this time, we'll need a motion to approve the contract and direct Jim and I to go ahead and sign on behalf of the Police Service Board. So I'll entertain that motion. Mayor Bailey, are you prepared to make that motion? Yeah, thank you. Seconded by Councillor Pierce, thank you. Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor of that motion? And that's carried. Thank you very much. Well done, everybody. And so sideline then, Adam will coordinate signatures and whatnot over the next little while so that we're not rushing at the last minute to get that done. Okay.
That's correct.
Great. Okay, if there's nothing else, thank you very much, Adam, for joining us today.
Have a great summer.
Yeah, you too. In our packages, I'm not sure if Staff Sergeant Hampson wants to talk about this a little bit more. He did allude to it a little bit in his report, but there's some information on that about Project Safe Trade and the spaces in front of the detachment. Was there anything else that you wanted to add to that?
There's not really a whole lot to add. We've got the signage up. It's been up for a few weeks now. It's used on a pretty regular basis. It's right in front of my office, so I look out the window and I see it on every day. It's being used by people, and I think it's a great resource for people to have a safe spot to do these transactions with some of the things that we're seeing take place. Fortunately, not in Brant County, but with different scams that are going on and different things like that. So this is a great initiative. We're just waiting for the parking lot spaces, or a stencil similar to the handicap parking stencil. We're just waiting for those to be painted, and then it'll be complete. But it's great. It's spread. They're in hot demand. They'll probably you'll be seeing them at most OPP detachments throughout West Region in the near future. Because once I had the stencil, I had it for minutes before my email was filling up for different detachments asking for the stencil to get the parking lot painted. So it is spreading quite quickly. So we're pleased to announce that we were one of the forerunners of having that in this part of the region. So
that's what I was going to ask you, was are we an innovator in this regard in terms of our area with what we're doing?
With this part of the region, yes. It did begin a couple of years ago, and we looked into it. Actually, I looked into it at the old detachment, but with parking there, we simply just did not have parking spaces we could dedicate towards that in the downtown core. So I'm sure everyone on the board is more aware of the parking challenges down there. But now with the new detachment, we certainly have the spots for it. And yeah, it's a great initiative. So we'll see what
Good
we
stuff.
come up with next.
Councillor Pierce, did you have a question or comment?
Just a quick comment, if I could, Madam Chair, and thank you, Staff Sergeant Hampson, for hitting it right off the hop that it is being used. I've had 2 people come to me and say, that's ridiculous. Why would they do that? It's not even being used. And I said, well, for starters, it's a safety thing. So, and it's exactly for that. So there's so much buy and sell happening right now. It's a safe place for people to go. And I knew it would be, but thank you for hitting that right off the head, saying the fact that it's used every day. So hopefully the people that asked me those questions are going to be watching this, because I told them it was on the agenda. So again, thank you for that. It's used every day.
Certainly. Just to add to that, it was essentially, it was no cost. A little bit of paint for the parking lot when that comes. So it was kind of a no-brainer to push through with this. And certainly we have lots of parking available.
Yeah. So what you're saying is it's used every day.
Every day. Yes.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions regarding the Project Safe Trade? I don't know that we need, and Heather, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't know that we need a motion for that, do we?
Usually just a motion to receive that communication.
Okay, so motion to receive for information then, please. Member Brown, seconded by Member Verhey. And any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. Okay, we'll move into section 10. Councillor Pierce, is there any updates or communications from council?
There's not a lot at this point in time, but I will be taking the information back to them in regards to staffing. There's been just discussion between a few of the councillors in regards to the speeding and the loud mufflers, and that's being hit, so that's great. Again, the police presence is out there and it's being seen, and I've had a few councillors tell me of that. So nothing major to come this way, and if there's anything to go back, let me know.
If I could ask you a question, maybe just for my own information, has the count, I don't recall, I know City of Brantford initially went right into it, and I think the county didn't, but has the county, will the county be supporting cannabis retail outlets in the county of Brant? Like, is council?
Well, back when it all came down from the province, we didn't opt out, so that put us to opting in automatically. So whether it's a support of it, I think that's kind of a double-edged sword. The reality of it is, because we didn't opt out of it, we actually get some funding for, there's different things that the funding can be used for, education and education's a big thing on it. But I think the answer you're looking for is we can't stop them from coming to town. There's one up on Rest Acres Road now, a distributor, and there are going to be some other ones. There are some other ones around the county. So it's kind of a tough question. Did we support it? Directly, no, but indirectly by opting out, we were opted in, or not opting out, we were opted in. It was kind of confusing, but that's the long and short of it.
I appreciate, I asked a difficult question. I didn't know how to word it either. But I was, I guess I was still thinking that that the City of Brantford was, obviously there's lots of different retail outlets in the City of Brantford, and I had just become aware of one in the county as well. So I wasn't sure, what the timelines were and where that had shifted. But thank you for the clarification. I understand the opt-in, opt-out thing. I appreciate that. Yeah,
there's a few in the county. So, and again, it's one of those, I guess you can look at it in two ways, that, with it being, in essence, it is legalized in that sense to purchase it. And I guess it's better to purchase it from a distributor like that than, to go under the train bridge and get it from somebody else. Right. So at any rate, that's where we stand.
Yeah, I appreciate the clarification. Anything else then for council this time? Okay. Marty, is there anything from Zone 4 that you'd like to bring forward?
Nothing really. Last meeting, you gave a brief update on the meeting that we hosted in June. Next one's in October. I did send you something last night, Jen. I didn't know if you had seen it, which is totally fine because it was a little late. But if that gets maybe circulated to our board, then perhaps they can take some time to review it and determine if and what we want to talk about at our next meeting. That was just following up on the cannabis discussion from the Zone 4. So there's lots of details there. Maybe you've seen it already in the minutes that came out from the Zone 4 meeting. Those were published, I think, last week. Nancy sent a copy out. So it's the same content. I just extrapolated it from the minutes because it was a long document. So yeah, other than that, there was also some, I'm not sure if you folks were aware, but there was some news that Fred Kostanen is leaving the organization. So that's, yeah, I was somewhat surprised to hear that, but it's, yeah, due to varying things. I'm still learning a little bit more as we go, so I don't have much to talk about at this point. But I have a couple of meetings coming up in the next couple of weeks to learn more about that and figure out how we can contribute to sort of the reshaping of that program. So I guess an interesting opportunity. I don't know much about the dynamic as to why and that, but I'll keep you posted when I learn more. I just learned this last week.
Well, that'll certainly be a whole. Fred's a wealth of knowledge and information to
Big
the
time.
organization.
Big time. I understand he's going to take on a bigger role with Halton. So he's still around, he's still in our zone. But yeah, that's it's an interesting change. So I have to learn more a little bit about it and what that means. So the board has been meeting and they're developing a plan in terms of starting to recruit a new leader. So yeah, that'll be an interesting exercise. So we've had a few ad hoc conversations as Zone 4 executive to chat through that and see if there's a way that we could possibly influence the agenda in terms of where we're going as a zone. Right? It's an interesting organization. It's necessary and we have a mandate, but it's a little bit sleepy, I guess, if you want to put it that way. You know, you come in, you do your meetings, and there's quite a varying group of people that make up the Zone 4 group. So we'll see how it unfolds, but I'd like to take up the offers to have some further discussion to figure out what we would like to do as a zone, what we're talking about, what issues we should be addressing, things like that. Because till now it's been fairly low key group. So.
Thank you, Member Verhey, for the update. We'll see what comes out of that then, I guess, as you keep us posted.
Mm-hmm.
Section 10.3, I don't believe there's anything additional on the community safety and well-being plan at this time. It's submitted, it's met its timelines, and I'm sure staff are looking at how best to implement an action item, some of those things that are in there. And as a side note, my understanding that the intimate partner violence application would address some of the priorities that were raised in the community safety well-being plan. So that's that they had a direct tie to that in terms of the application process. So that's good to hear. I have nothing additional in terms of the chair update. And then just as a follow-up item under 10.5, I have spoken with Inspector Nash regarding last meeting we talked about revisiting the concept of a communication piece to our county residents. And I believe himself and staff are looking into that as we have budget assigned for that in our PSB budget. So that has been resurrected in terms of discussion and back on the agenda. So we'll see where that takes us in the next little while. I'm not sure if there's anything else anybody needs to raise at this time. But if not, we will move into Other business, which we have on here, the Detachment barbecue request for support. Jim and I, Member Brown and I attended last week. Very positive opportunity to meet various members of the detachment in various different roles and positions. Opportunity to have in a small, intimate gathering with COVID protocols and everything else in place, but it was an opportunity for us to hear, some of the stuff firsthand in terms of the things that that keep them busy, or just they're very, very thankful, very, very appreciative of the barbecue and the idea of doing the barbecue. One of the experienced officers was just flabbergasted that the detachment would have a barbecue, because that wasn't anything he had experienced in his previous roles. So that was nice to hear, the intimate opportunity. Inspector Nash has a great rapport with his personnel, and the way that he's able to lead and conduct. He has a great rapport with everybody, from the feedback that Member Brown and I were able to garner anyways. So at this time, I think what we're presenting is that the PSB, even though we've already had 2 of them take place and 2 more will still to come, that we offer some measure of financial support towards the cost of the food supplies. I don't know, Member Brown, if you wanted to add anything additional to the comments.
Thanks, Madam Chair. No, it was a very positive experience. I would suggest that morale is very high there right now for the conversations that we've had. It's always a roller coaster ride up and down, but I think they're good weather and things freeing up again. They're a very positive group of individuals that were there. Inspector Nash has advised us that he has expended approximately $500 for the food and what was needed for this barbecue. And we were looking at the board, I believe there's money budgeted there for to cover some of these costs, and we'd be looking for some input as to and a motion to cover these costs for the OPP barbecues.
Member Brown, do you have are we thinking like up to $600 to ensure that there's no additional expenses, or is it just we need to put a dollar value here for a motion?
Yeah, no, I agree. I guess we have to put that forward for discussion. I move that the board pay an amount up to $600 to cover all the costs incurred in the 4 barbecues that we're doing with Inspector Nash for the OPP Brant County.
Is there a seconder for that motion? Councillor Pierce, thank you. Okay, any discussion? Member Verhey?
Just so I understand correctly, you mean that up to $600 would cover the complete cost of the barbecue?
Yes, that's correct.
Any other discussion? Questions? Seeing none, so the motion to have PSB cover up to a maximum of $600 towards the cost of the 4 barbecues. All those in favor of that motion? That's carried. Thank you very much. Okay, so I believe we have 2 items of personal matters in camera. We need a motion to go into camera. Thank you, Mayor Bailey. Seconder, please. Member Brown. All those in favor of that motion? Okay, that's carried. We'll just
I told him I would love to shoot here, but I just can't because I know it's not what they do on a daily basis.
Okay, we are back, open session. And so at this time, I believe our next piece is to confirm that we will not be meeting in August. We'll recess August, as previously discussed, and we'll meet again in September. We'll see what September brings us. Could be some more changes, who knows? I don't have that date in front of me, but Nancy will send out the appropriate calendar appointments for September. Anything else before we call for adjournment, Mayor Bailey?
Yeah, if something does come up, Madam Chair, that you think that you need to have us come together again, please activate your call of the chair. Please don't wait till September if
Of
you
course.
feel you need to speak to us as a board. Thank you.
Thanks for that advice. I appreciate that. Okay, Councillor Pierce.
Well, reports the last few days to a week are telling us that September is going to bring us the Paris Fall Fair. So, woohoo!
It's exciting times, and we can also maybe look forward to meeting together in person sometime soon, rather than virtual, which would be nice to be able to be with each other again. Positive steps forward, which is encouraging.
Absolutely.
So with no further ado, I think we've met our timelines for Councillor Pierce's commitments, and we've covered a lot of ground today. Excellent meeting, everybody. And we'll have a motion to adjourn, please. Member Verhey, thank you very much. And without further ado, Mayor Bailey's already off to the next thing.